Welcome. Not a palace built by human hands, but one that grew the way crystals grow, slowly, in the patient dark, in the mineral silence of deep geological time, without ambition, without effort, simply responding to the conditions of its own becoming. It rose from the center of a sea of still light, where the sky and the water are the same color, the pale, luminous blue-white of a flame seen from a very great distance, of a thought on the edge of consciousness, of the inside of a cloud. The palace is made entirely of opal. Its towers catch the light and hold it, turning it over the way a careful hand turns a jewel, seeking every angle of its beauty, breaking white luminance into its hidden component colors, amber, deep rose, aquamarine like shallow tropical water, the palest green of new leaves unfurling in April, the deep indigo of the gap between stars where gravity is very still. The walls breathe with color the way skin breathes with warmth. They are alive with it, not with movement exactly, but with presence, with the particular vitality of something that has been infused with light for so long that the light has become part of the structure of the thing, inseparable from it. This is the Eternal Opal Palace, and tonight, for however many soft hours remain between now and morning, it is waiting for you. There is nothing you need to bring, no preparation required. The palace receives you exactly as you are, tired, perhaps, from a day that asked much of you, distracted, perhaps, by the thoughts that trail behind days like this, that refuse to quite release when the day ends, wound, perhaps, in some small but persistent way. It does not matter. The palace does not require anything of you but your presence, and your presence is already given. You are already here, already in this quiet, already in this soft and patient dark. Let yourself come the rest of the way. Chapter 1. The Approach. Crossing the Sea of Still Light. You find yourself standing at the edge of an impossible shore. The ground beneath your feet is smooth and warm, not quite stone, not quite sand, but something between the two, something that shares qualities with both without being either. A pale, crystalline substance that gives very slightly under your weight, like compressed moonlight, like the ground of a place that has been receiving footsteps for longer than it has been possible to make footsteps, that has learned the courtesy of yielding without giving way entirely. There are no waves here. The sea before you does not move. It simply is a vast, breathtakingly flat expanse of something that resembles liquid, but behaves more like light that has decided to take on weight and gather itself into a horizontal plane. It is the color of opal in its most reserved expression, pale, almost white, with just enough color shift to remind you that it is not white at all, that within its apparent simplicity there is an infinite complexity held in reserve, available, waiting to be seen from the right angle with the right quality of attention. You stand at the edge of this shore, and you breathe. The air here is unlike any air you have breathed before. It is not cold, not warm, but the temperature of temperature itself, the ideal temperature, the one that your body recognizes as neither requiring adjustment nor asking for notice. It simply is the right temperature. It smells of nothing, and this nothing is itself a particular and beautiful quality. Not the absence of scent, but the presence of pure air, air that has never been complicated by anything, that is simply itself in its fullest expression. You breathe it in, and feel it fill you from the bottom of your chest upward. And there, on the horizon of the still sea, so far away that distance becomes merely a suggestion, that far and near lose their ordinary meaning. The palace glows, the Eternal Opal Palace. Even from this distance you can perceive its colors shifting, its walls alive with that slow, continuous, color-rich breathing that is not breath, but is the closest thing this world has to breath. It pulses very, very gently, like the luminescence of a creature from the deepest part of the ocean, where sunlight has never arrived, but life, in its determination, has found other sources of light and made them sufficient. The sight of it produces in you something quiet, not excitement. Excitement belongs to the waking world and its urgencies. Something quieter than excitement, something more like the feeling of remembering something beautiful you had forgotten. A soft opening in the chest, a slight release, an easing, as if the palace, merely by being visible on that luminous horizon, has already done something for you, has already begun the work of the night. At your feet you notice a vessel. It is nothing like a boat. There is no wood, no metal, no mast, no oar. It is more like a raft made of woven light, a platform of interlocking opaline filaments, each one thinner than a strand of hair, each one glowing faintly with its own internal color. The colors different from each filament to the next, and yet harmonious together, so that the whole of the raft glows with the particular color that exists when all colors are mixed in exactly the right proportions and with exactly the right delicacy, a warm, soft, indefinite luminosity that is somehow all colors and somehow none, that is simply beautiful. You step onto it. It does not rock. It does not pitch or roll or respond to your weight with any instability. It simply receives you, settling your weight into its structure with such completeness that the process of stepping aboard feels less like boarding a vessel and more like being received, like being welcomed into a space that was already shaped to contain you. You sit down, or perhaps lie down, because the surface invites lying. The surface makes reclining feel like the natural and necessary posture for this crossing. The way certain beaches make lying in the sun seem like the only sensible response to their beauty. You lie on your back, on the raft of woven light. The opal sky above you is already soft with the particular luminosity of this place, the pale, sourceless light that comes from everywhere simultaneously and so creates no shadows, or creates shadows that are themselves luminous, that are deeper colors rather than darker, that are rose rather than gray, amber rather than black. You look up at this sky and feel it looking back at you, not with any invasive quality, but with the gentle reciprocity of things that notice each other across distance. And the raft begins to move, not with speed, not with urgency, not in any way that disturbs the stillness of the sea, or the stillness of the air, or the stillness that is beginning to build within you, layer by soft layer, like snow accumulating without sound. It moves the way a cloud moves, carried by something you cannot feel directly, but whose existence you infer from the motion, by a current in the air or in the light itself, by a pull from the direction of the palace that is less a pull and more an invitation. The shore recedes. You do not watch it go. You lie on your back and watch the opal sky and breathe, and the raft carries you, and the palace draws closer by degrees, so gradual you cannot mark them. Only notice at intervals that the glow on the horizon is slightly fuller, slightly more detailed, slightly more present. Time passes on the sea of still light, but time here is different from the time of the waking world. In the waking world, time has a grain to it, a texture, a direction, a friction against which you move. Here, time is smooth. Here, time is the sea itself, flat, vast, supportive, asking nothing of you about your passage through it. You float on time as you float on the sea. You are not spending it. You are simply in it. Your breathing is the clock of this crossing. Out, in, out. Each breath is complete in itself, a whole, self-contained event, requiring nothing of the breath that follows it, belonging entirely to its own moment. And the moment passes into the next, and the next into the next, and the palace is closer now, significantly closer, close enough that you can see the structure of its towers in detail, can see the way each tier of each tower is made of opal of a slightly different character. More pink here, more blue there, more purely white at the very tops where the towers narrow to their translucent points. The particles in the sea around the raft have become more numerous as you near the palace. They are everywhere now, tiny motes of luminescence suspended in the light liquid of the sea, drifting in slow, unconcerned patterns, neither rising nor sinking, but simply present at every depth, turning the sea into something that resembles the inside of a snow globe where the snow is stars. You trail your hand over the edge of the raft and let your fingers move through the surface, and the particles drift through and around your fingers with absolute gentleness, and each one that contacts your skin leaves behind the faintest warmth, the briefest trace of light, gone before you can look at it directly, but present enough to be felt, to be known. And then, without announcement, without fanfare, the raft is still. You open your eyes. Before you, the base of the Eternal Opal Palace, walls of living opal rising from the sea itself, as if the palace has grown from the sea, or the sea has gathered around the palace's foundations out of devotion or simply proximity. The walls are close now, close enough to touch if you extended your arm, and what you see in them from this nearness is not less beautiful than what you saw from a distance. It is differently beautiful. From a distance, the palace was a concept, a vision, a horizon. It is the individual panels of opal stone, each one 3 feet wide and 6 feet tall, each one subtly different from its neighbors, each one a world unto itself. And rising from the base of the wall, directly before you, the staircase. 30 steps of pure crystalline opal, carved or grown or willed into being from the single substance of the palace, each one wide and low and smooth, each one carrying within it a particular configuration of the stone's internal fire. The first steps are very pale, almost white, but as the staircase rises, the stone deepens, first toward a warm cream, then toward the amber of autumn afternoons, then toward something that begins to approach rose, and finally, at the top of the staircase, a deep and glowing apricot that is almost the color of a banked fire, a contained warmth, a heat that knows itself and has learned restraint. And beyond the top of the staircase, a doorway. The doorway is enormous, twice your height, 3 times your width. Its frame is carved from a single piece of white opal, pure white, unadorned, without the color play of the walls, as if this entrance to the palace requires no ornament, as if the entrance itself is the ornament, shaped into an arch that narrows to a gentle point above, the sides of it curving inward with the natural line of a flame seen from a great distance. Organic, soft, slightly asymmetric in the way that natural things are always slightly asymmetric. Through the doorway, warm golden light. the kind of light that suggests candles, or the low light of a bedroom, or the memory of firelight seen in childhood. A light that is not about visibility, but about feeling. A light whose primary function is not illumination, but warmth, not showing, but welcoming. You step off the raft. Your feet meet the crystalline shore at the base of the palace, and your body, which has been lying still for the whole crossing, begins the gentle work of standing, of moving, of approaching the staircase that rises before you, with its deepening colors and its patient invitation. The first step. It is, again, the exact temperature of your skin, so that your foot and the step meet at a threshold you cannot locate, a boundary you cannot find. And this borderlessness is not alarming, but deeply comfortable, deeply confirming of something that this place seems to want you to know. You belong here. You are not a visitor to be kept at a careful distance from the palace's substance. You are continuous with it. You are made of similar things. You came from light and will return to light, and in between you have walked around in the world, doing your best. And this place knows all of that, and loves all of that, and offers you tonight its warmth without reservation. Step by step, you climb. With each step, the warmth deepens slightly. The stone beneath your foot is the same temperature with each step, but the accumulated warmth, the sense of being enveloped in it, the way warmth builds when it comes from multiple directions simultaneously, grows with every step you take. By the 15th step, halfway up the staircase, you feel it not just through your feet, but through your whole lower body, a warmth that moves upward through your skeleton the way heat moves through metal, slowly, pervasively, eventually reaching the center. By the 25th step, your hands have uncurled. You did not know they were curled, but they were, holding something, the way hands always hold something when the day has asked much of them, when the world has been complicated and small grips have been necessary. Now they open. The fingers spread slightly and release. The palms face down and forward and receive the warm air that moves up the staircase from the doorway above. Air that carries the palace's light in it. Light that is also warmth. Warmth that is also welcome. The 30th step, the doorway. You breathe in. Chapter 2. The Hall of Infinite Reflection. The first room of the Eternal Opal Palace is known as the Hall of Infinite Reflection, and the name is accurate in ways that take time to fully understand. It is not a room in any conventional sense. There are no right angles here. No place where two walls meet the floor at 90 degrees. No place where the ceiling meets the wall with the hard insistence of a line. Everything curves. The walls curve away from you on all sides, not in the simple arc of a cylinder, but in a more complex organic curve that is different in each direction, that responds to the space it encloses the way the inside of a seashell responds to the space within it, with a spiral intelligence, with a form that is both structured and alive. A ceiling is very high above you, high enough that calling it a ceiling feels inaccurate. It is more like a sky, not the opal sky of outside, but an interior sky, defined and contained, but vastly present, lit from within by the same principle that lights the walls, the opal stone itself, generating its light not from any external source, but from the internal fire of the crystal, the slow combustion of light into light that has been happening within the palace's walls since the palace began. and every surface is mirror polished. You are surrounded by yourself, infinitely reflected, your image repeated in every direction, diminishing toward a vanishing point in each curved mirror wall that seems to be farther away than the laws of geometry should allow for a room of any physical size. Each reflection is you, and is slightly different from you. In one, the light is more amber. In another, you are surrounded by something that looks like drifting petals of crystalline flowers you haven't encountered yet. In another, the light has shifted to a deep, dreaming violet. In another, and this one catches your eye and holds it for a moment. You are lying down, your eyes closed, your face the face of someone who has released everything, who has given themselves over to the great, patient dark of sleep with complete trust. That reflection is very beautiful. You look at it for a moment. Then you look forward into the hall itself, into the long, curving, reflected space that extends before you in all its multiplied glory. The floor beneath you is deep indigo opal, the darkest tone of the stone, the color of the sky in the narrow minutes between the last of sunset and the arrival of full night, when the blue is still technically blue, but has become so deep and so saturated that it is on its way to becoming something else, something more profound than color. It is a color that seems to go down as well as across, a color with depth to it, a color that you could, if you chose, follow downward into. Walking on it is like walking on a very still, very dark lake. The first thought your body has a small alarm, a reaching for the sensation of falling, and then the floor proves itself, shows you its solidity, and the alarm dissolves, and what replaces it is something extraordinary, the feeling of walking on something that has depth, on something that is not merely the floor, but the surface of something vast, standing on the top of immensity. You walk forward. At the far end of the hall, a far end you perceive rather than see clearly, because the distance keeps rearranging itself slightly, the way the distance inside a mirror sometimes seems to shift, depending on where you stand. There is a fountain, but the fountain is not made of water. It is made of light. A single column of pale golden luminescence rises from a basin carved from the same indigo opal as the floor. The basin is perhaps 6 feet across and 2 feet deep, and within it the light pools before rising in its luminous column, the way water pools before it falls over a weir. The column rises perhaps 10 feet before it begins to dissolve, not to fall back into the basin, but to dissipate, becoming less and less defined, until it is simply part of the ambient light of the hall, indistinguishable from the glow of the walls, returning to its source the way a river returns to the sea. The fountain makes a sound. The sound is not the sound of water. It is at the very lowest edge of what can be heard, more felt than heard, a vibration that you perceive not through your ears, but through your sternum, your ribs, the long bones of your arms and legs, a single sustained tone, not a musical note exactly, but the resonance that remains after a note has been played and the instrument has been stilled. The ghost of a note, the memory of a frequency, the echo of a sound that is still somehow present, even though the original has ceased. You walk toward the fountain. As you walk, the light shifts around you. Columns of warm illumination fall from sources you cannot identify. Light that arrives from above and behind the walls, that has traveled through layers of opal and been transformed by that passage, emerging on this side tinted with the colors of the stone it moved through. Warm amber, the coral of late afternoon, the palest sea glass green, a rose so soft It is almost the color of the inside of a seashell. Each column of light is different in color. Each one is warm when you pass through it. Not warm like fire, warm like memory. Warm like the specific warmth of an afternoon remembered long after the afternoon itself has passed. Remembered in the body rather than the mind. Carried in the muscle and the blood, where the weather of past days is still recorded. You sit on the rim of the fountain. The rim is exactly the right height. Your feet are flat on the floor. Your back is straight without effort. Your hands rest in your lap, with the particular relaxation of hands that have put down whatever they were carrying and have nothing yet to pick up. You lean forward slightly and look into the basin where the light pools. It is deep, much deeper than the basin appears from the outside. Looking into it is like looking down into a well, not a well of water, but a well of quiet. The light within the basin does not go to the bottom in any normal sense. It goes through the bottom, or below the bottom, following some principle of opal physics that the ordinary world does not recognize. At the near surface, the light is bright and warm and color complex, swirling with ambers and roses in a slow, perpetual motion, like cream turning in coffee, like the interior of a nebula seen from very close. But as your gaze goes deeper, following the light downward through the basin, the colors simplify. They become paler, the motion slows, the palette reduces, and at the very deepest point you can perceive, which feels miles rather than inches away, there is a quality that is the deepest quietness you have ever encountered, deeper than a quiet room, deeper than a quiet night, deeper than any quiet available in the waking world. A quiet that is not the absence of sound, but the presence of its opposite, the state from which sound emerges and to which it returns. You look at this deep quiet for a long time. Your eyes, which in the waking world are always busy, scanning, assessing, responding, preparing for the next thing to respond to, your eyes here simply look, not scanning, not preparing, simply receiving the beauty before them without any agenda beyond the receiving. And this is a kind of rest that your eyes rarely get. This is what they need. This is what they have been needing since the day began, since the screen woke up and the notifications arrived, and the world resumed its demands on your attention. Your eyes rest in the depths of the fountain. Time in the hall of infinite reflection does not announce itself. It does not march with the insistence of the minutes in the waking world. You are aware of it only as a quality of experience, the experience deepening, becoming more settled, the way tea deepens in color as it steeps, becoming more of what it is, with every minute you sit at the fountain's rim. More of this light, this quiet, this indigo depth, this amber warmth, enters you and becomes part of the substance of you. You are being changed. Not dramatically, not into something unrecognizable, simply settled, the way a pile of things that has been shifted and rearranged and added to throughout the day can be settled into something more orderly, more stable, more itself. You are being settled into yourself. From somewhere deeper in the palace, from one of the passages that lead away from the hall through the mirror-polished walls, passages you can see reflected in every direction, passages that disappear into their own diminishing reflections, passages that lead to the gardens and the towers and the deep corridors of amber warmth. From one of these passages, music begins. Or it was always there, and you are only now quiet enough to hear it. The music has no rhythm in the ordinary sense, no pulse, no recurring beat that would allow you to tap your foot to it, or count its time, or anticipate its next moment. It changes the way weather changes, with its own internal logic, its own seasons, following forces too large and too gentle to be described as tempo or key. It is the sound of opal resonating at the frequencies where physics becomes something else, something more patient than physics, something that has been making this sound since before any ear existed to hear it, and will continue long after the last ear has gone quiet. The sound is beautiful. It is the most beautiful sound you have heard since arriving, and you have arrived somewhere very beautiful. You stand from the rim of the fountain. Your legs carry you without effort, without the small negotiations that legs require in the waking world, the stiffness of joints, the calculation of balance. Here, your body moves as an expression of your intention, cleanly and without friction. You turn toward the music. You walk toward it, through the hall, past your 1,000 reflections, all moving in the same direction, all heading toward whatever is making that impossible, crystalline, geography-dissolving sound. All of you, together, moving deeper into the palace, moving toward the music that is already, even before you arrive at its source, already beginning to be the sound of sleep. Chapter 3: The Garden of Suspended Blossoms. The passage from the Hall of Infinite Reflection leads upward, not steeply, not with the exertion of a climb. The passage simply rises, the way a gently sloping road rises, the way the earth rises under a hill, so gradually that you are some distance up the hill before you understand that you have been climbing. The floor of the passage is the same opal as the floor of the hall, but in its lighter expression, a pale, luminous gray-white that seems to generate its own gentle upward light, as if the floor is inviting your feet upward, is participating in your ascent. The walls of the passage are narrower than the hall, more personal in scale. The opal here is carved in a subtler way, reliefs of crystalline forms along the walls at eye level, suggestions of the flowers you will find above, but reduced, simplified, the way a musical theme is often introduced quietly before it is given its full voice. Small crystalline buds along the wall, their internal colors muted, their forms compact, saving their full expression for the garden that awaits above. The air changes as you rise. It becomes lighter, more open in quality, not thinner, not less supportive, but more spacious in the way that air changes when you move from a small room into a large one, and the room is waiting to be filled with what you bring. The air of the passage holds the promise of the garden, the way the air outside a bakery holds the promise of bread. You know what you are approaching before you arrive, because the substance of it has already reached you, translated into the medium of air. And then the passage opens, the garden of suspended blossoms. The word extraordinary is inadequate and is also the only word. This garden is what the word was invented for. This is the thing that required the word to exist, that justified the invention of language about wonder, that makes you understand why people have always tried, in poems and prayers and long, careful letters, to say what cannot finally be said, that some places are so beautiful that beauty itself seems inadequate as a description, that what is needed is not a description but a transmission, a direct sending of the experience from one nervous system to another. The garden is inside and outside simultaneously. The space is vast, the scale of a cathedral, but without the cathedral's austere quality, without its demand that you be small and solemn before its greatness. This space is vast in a welcoming way. Its vastness is generous rather than intimidating. It says, there is room here. There is room for everything you have brought with you, and everything you will bring, and everything you might become, and there will still be room. Above the garden is a sky, a real sky, not a ceiling painted to look like a sky, not an illusion of sky, not the suggestion of sky. A sky, the sky of this place, which is the opal sky, which is the color that opal is when it is everything at once, the pale, luminous, multiply colored, uncategorizable color that opal reaches when the light hits it from exactly the right angle, and it becomes all of its colors simultaneously, and therefore becomes no color and all color, and the most beautiful thing. And in the space between the sky and the pale crystalline floor of the garden, filling that space from edge to edge, from floor level to a height of 50 or 60 feet, the blossoms. Thousands, tens of thousands, perhaps more. The count becomes irrelevant at a certain threshold, becomes simply immeasurable. They are flowers of every shape that flowers take. Round, full flowers like roses or peonies, their petals curled in on themselves in the first or last moment of opening. Tall, pointed flowers like irises, their petals arranged in complex, precise geometry. Small, many-petaled flowers like the flowers of trees in spring, delicate and numerous, and when clustered together, almost too much to look at directly. Simple, flat flowers like daisies or cosmos, their centers calm points around which the petals radiate in orderly peace. All of them are opal. All of them carry within them the full color range of the stone. They shift from rose to amber, to aquamarine, to violet as you look at them, as the quality of the light changes between one moment and the next, as your angle of viewing changes by a fraction. They are never the same color twice. They are always beautiful, and they float. They are not attached to stems or vines or any structure. They are simply present in the air, at every height, from just above the floor to a point near the ceiling of the sky, distributed through the entire three-dimensional volume of the garden with a naturalness that suggests intention without imposing it. They do not move. They are perfectly still. They have the stillness of things that have been exactly where they are for a very long time and have no reason to be anywhere else. They are perhaps the most perfect example of rest in any form that you have ever encountered. You walk into the garden. As you pass through the first layer of blossoms, you feel something, a quality in the air that is different from the air of the passage or the hall. A quality that is less easy to name than warmth or light or quiet. A quality that is more like attention, as if the garden itself is attending to you, not in any demanding or intrusive way, not in the way that a crowd attends to a speaker, more in the way that a garden attends to the person who tends it, with a diffuse, benevolent awareness. You are noticed here, you are received. You pass between blossoms without disturbing them. They have not moved for you, but you have not moved for them either. You have each given the other the courtesy of space, the gift of presence without intrusion. This is the social contract of the garden. The light within the garden comes from above and below simultaneously. The sky provides light from above, the opal sky with its sourceless, directionless, color-complex luminosity, and the floor provides light from below. The crystalline floor of the garden is translucent, and through it comes a gentle upward radiance from some source deep beneath the palace. Some fundamental fire within the palace's foundations that generates the light that the whole structure runs on. So you are lit from above and below. The shadows are not dark, they are colored. Where a blossom interrupts the light from below, it creates a colored shadow, rose, amber, the palest possible green. The shadows are beautiful. Everything here is beautiful. You stop in the middle of the garden. You are approximately in the center, or what feels like the center, because the garden is large enough that the walls are barely visible in the edges of your vision. And the blossoms surround you on all sides and above, and the sky is of the blossoms, and the light is everywhere. You are inside a sphere of beauty. You are at the center of something that has been arranged by forces beyond your understanding, specifically for this moment. You tilt your head back. Above you, very close, is a cluster of blossoms that are the color of the deepest, most saturated violet. The violet of wine, of shadows on snow, of the far end of the visible spectrum, where light is about to become something your eyes can no longer follow. They are moving through their colors slowly as you watch, violet fading toward the gray-blue of deep water, then shifting towards something that approaches rose at its outer edges, then back toward violet, the cycle taking perhaps a minute to complete. You are transfixed, not in a paralyzed way, in the way that true beauty transfixes, holding you with its beauty rather than with any force, keeping you still not because you cannot move, but because you do not want to. Because moving would cost you the view, and the view is worth the stillness. Your hand rises. Your fingers brush the lowest petal of the nearest blossom. The touch is unlike any touch in the ordinary world. The petal is not hard, not cold. It is not warm, not soft, not anything that maps cleanly onto the vocabulary of touch. What it is you, the exact temperature and texture of your own skin. Touching the petal is like touching yourself, not in any strange way, but in the deepest and most comforting way, the way that self-contact is always, underneath its simplicity, a confirmation. I am here. I am real. I am present. I exist. And the blossom responds. From the point of contact, a wave of deep blue moves outward through the petals. Not an alarmed reaction, not a flinching, but something more like a recognition, a ripple of awareness moving through the flower's structure, the way a thought moves through a mind that is very close to sleep, slowly, gently, more felt than witnessed. The wave reaches the outer edges of the petals and is absorbed, returned to the flower's general shimmer. And then, over the next 30 seconds, the blossom rotates, a quarter turn, no more, as if it is presenting a different face to you, as if it wants you to see it from another angle, as if beauty of this kind insists on being more than two-dimensional. You smile. You let your hand fall back to your side. You walk further into the garden, and the garden receives you, and you receive it, and the exchange is easy and mutual and as natural as breathing. There is a place in the center of the garden. You find it the way you find the center of things in this palace, not by searching, but by walking, by following the subtle guidance of a space that knows where it wants you to be, and leads you there through the accumulated rightness of each small step. Not a circular clearing, not a geometrically perfect space, but a naturally shaped opening in the arrangement of the blossoms, roughly spherical in volume, perhaps 20 feet across, its walls made of blossoms packed densely together at every height, all of them the same pale gold, the gold of sunlight seen through closed eyelids, the gold of the inside of warmth. In the center of this clearing, the floor. A place in the floor where the crystal is slightly warm to the touch. Not from the light below, though that contributes, but from something else. From the proximity of all these gold blossoms. From the warmth they have stored and are now radiating. From the quality of the light that passes between them and through them, and accumulates in this enclosed space, to a richness that is beyond light. You sit down. The warmth rises through the floor and into you. It is the warmth of belonging, the warmth that a space generates when it has been filled with the right things in the right proportion, when the temperature is exactly right, and the light is exactly right, and the air is exactly right, and you are exactly right, and everything is exactly right. Your spine settles, your shoulders drop, your hands open on your knees, palms upward, receiving the warmth, the light, the presence of all these suspended gold blossoms in their perfection. Your eyes close, and the inside of your eyelids is gold, and the garden is all around you, and the blossoms float in the warm air, above you and below you and all around you, and the opal sky is above the blossoms, and the palace is all around the garden, and the sea of still light is all around the palace, and you are at the center of all of this. At the center of all of this you breathe. Your breathing has slowed to something remarkable. Each breath is a small event, unhurried, complete. A full expansion followed by a full release, followed by the small and comfortable pause that belongs to the threshold between one breath and the next, the threshold where the body rests momentarily between its great ongoing motions, where you are neither filling nor emptying, but simply being. The music that has been with you since the Hall of Infinite Reflection is different in the garden. It has acquired the acoustic of the space, warmer, rounder, more resonant, with the close presence of the surrounding blossoms that catch the sound and hold it briefly before releasing it, like a room full of soft things absorbs echoes and creates something softer, more domestic, more intimate than open space produces. You are in the garden. The garden is in you. There is warmth in the floor beneath you. There is light from everywhere. There are thousands of crystalline flowers floating in perfect, patient suspension. The music is warm and low and continuous. Your breathing is slow and complete. You have been awake for a long time. You have been awake for many hours today, meeting what the day asked for, giving what was required of you, being present and attentive and responsive in all the ways that a full day in the world requires. And now the day is done, and the world is quiet, and you are here, in this garden, in this impossible place, in the warmth and the gold light and the floating flowers, and you do not need to be awake anymore. Your eyelids grow heavy. You do not fight this. There is nothing here worth fighting. Let the lids close. Let the gold become the gold behind your eyes. Let the garden become the thing you carry with you as you go deeper. Chapter 4. The Atrium of Soft Rain. You find yourself in the Atrium of Soft Rain, and you are not surprised. In this palace, transitions happen the way they happen in the best dreams, which is to say, effortlessly, without the ordinary requirements of locomotion and decision. Between one breath and the next, you are in the gold clearing of the suspended garden, and with the next breath, you are here. And both places feel equally real, and neither feels more like the truth than the other. because both are the truth. Because this palace contains multitudes, and you have been moving through them with the particular freedom of the hours when the waking mind has loosened its grip on the question of what is possible. The atrium is circular. Its walls rise in a smooth, continuous curve, the interior curve of something grown rather than built, like the inside of an enormous nautilus shell, like the cavity in a crystal geode, like any space that has been shaped not by tools, but by the patient pressure of existence over time. The walls are crystalline, translucent, made of a form of opal that is different from the thick, fire-rich opal of the palace's outer walls. This opal is thin enough that the light from outside can come through it, though what arrives on this side of the wall is not the light itself, but a mediation of the light, a softening. The light of the opal sky, filtered through the opal wall, arrives in the atrium not as light, but as the memory of light, the impression of it, the warmth without the brightness, the awareness of it without the demand. And it is raining. The rain falls from the ceiling of the atrium, or from where the ceiling should be, because directly above is a circular aperture, 6 feet across, through which the opal sky is directly visible, and through this aperture something falls, something that is almost rain, something that has the form of rain, droplets, falling, without being rain in any ordinary sense. The droplets are opal-colored, pale, iridescent, each one no larger than a small seed, each one catching and refracting the diffuse light of the atrium, so that it carries a small, private rainbow within itself, a rainbow so tiny and so complete that you would not see it unless you looked very closely, unless you were the kind of person who looks very closely at small things, which in this place you are, because in this place there is time for exactly this. And as the droplets fall, this is the impossible thing, the thing that makes this rain unlike any rain in the ordinary world. They become lighter. Not faster, lighter. As if the opal air of the atrium is made of something slightly denser than ordinary air, something that offers more support to falling things, something that reduces the pull that gravity exerts. The droplets that enter the atrium from the aperture above are falling at something like normal speed, but within a few feet, the speed has reduced. And further down, the speed has reduced further, and at the height where you stand, perhaps 20 feet below the ceiling, the droplets are barely falling. They are drifting. They are moving downward with the leisure of something that has all the time in the world, that has released its urgency, that has allowed itself to be supported by the medium it moves through. They drift around you. They do not land on you unless you reach out your hand to receive them, and even then they land so gently that the word land seems excessive. They arrive. They arrive at the back of your hand with a delicacy that is the opposite of impact, that is really more of a recognition. Here you are, says the droplet, touching your skin with the soft insistence of something that has been looking for exactly this temperature, this surface, this moment. And the droplet on the back of your hand is warm, not hot, not the aggressive warmth of a scalding drop, the precise, patient warmth of a surface that has been at the same temperature for a very long time and knows exactly what it is doing. You stand in the middle of the atrium and you look up. The aperture above you frames a small circle of the opal sky. From within the circle, the rain continues to emerge, each droplet entering the frame of the aperture and immediately beginning its long, slow, patient fall through the atrium air, its descent a metaphor for everything in this palace that has released its hurry, that has allowed itself to be held. You think, this is what it feels like when you stop hurrying. when you really stop, when you put down the urgency that the waking world asks you to carry, when you allow the medium of your life to support you more than you have been allowing it to, when you drop, not quickly, not dangerously, but slowly, slowly in the way of things that are being held while they fall, that are safe in their descent. A bench receives you. You find it without looking for it, a long, low form of pale crystalline opal near the center of the atrium, its surface curved slightly to receive a reclining human form. You lie on it. Your head tilts back and finds the slight elevation that the bench has built into its upper end. Your feet extend before you. Your arms rest at your sides in the natural position of arms that have put down everything. Above you, the aperture, the circle of opal sky, the continuous emergence of the pale drifting droplets. Around you, the circular walls with their filtered, gentle light. In your ears, the sound of the rain. The sound of this rain is the most beautiful thing you have heard in a long time. It is so soft that you almost have to hold your breath to hear it. And then, when you do hold your breath, what you hear is a sound that exists at the boundary between sound and not sound. Each droplet, as it moves through the atrium air, generates a vibration. A small, barely there resonance, a frequency so low it is felt as much as heard, a vibration in the chest cavity rather than a noise at the eardrum. And the thousands of droplets in the air at any given moment each generate their own such vibration, and together they create something that could be called a chord, though calling it a chord is an ambitious use of the word. It is really more like the chord's reflection, the shadow of a chord, the quality of harmony without its insistence. You breathe, and the sound is in your breathing. You breathe out, and the sound continues. Your chest rises and falls, and the rain drifts, and the sound continues, and the warmth of the bench is all along your spine, and the opal walls glow with their soft filtered light, and the atrium is the most comfortable place you have ever been. Your eyes follow a single droplet. You choose one from the hundreds visible in the space above the bench, and you watch it. It enters your field of vision near the aperture, small, bright, carrying its private rainbow, and begins its slow descent through the atrium air. You watch it negotiate the competing claims of falling and floating, of gravity and support. You watch it move through the air at the pace of something that has accepted help. It passes through the level where other droplets drift around it, each on its own trajectory, each following its own particular path through the atrium, without collision, without urgency. The droplet reaches the level of your face. It drifts past, close enough to see clearly. Its opal colors shift as it moves, a flash of rose, then aquamarine, then the warm amber that seems to belong to its heart, the color that was there before all the others and remains after they have cycled through. The droplet continues past your level and descends further, more slowly now, nearly still, coming to rest at last on the floor of the atrium, where it is absorbed without drama, without splash, simply returned. You watch another, then another. Then, without deciding to, you stop watching and simply lie there with your eyes open in the gentle light of the atrium, allowing the rain to move through the space around you without following it with your attention, without tracking it, without any agenda beyond being present in the warmth and the light and the sound and the rain. This is a practice. In the waking world, you call it many things: rest, relaxation, letting go, being present. But these words describe the practice from the outside, from the perspective of someone observing it. From the inside, the practice has no name. From the inside, it simply is the gradual release of the tension that the day has asked you to carry, the incremental softening of the vigilance that the waking hours require, the permission offered by you to yourself, the most important permission, to be here fully, not partially, not with one foot in tomorrow's concerns. The rain drifts around you. The bench holds you. The warmth is everywhere. Your breathing is very slow now. Each exhale is a complete event, a full release, the body's version of the droplet's descent, thorough, patient, arriving somewhere. Each inhale refills you with the warm air of the atrium, air that is damp with the presence of the rain, that carries in it some quality of the opal light that the droplets have been catching and releasing as they drift. You are breathing light, or the light is breathing you. In the atrium of soft rain, the distinction is not clear, and the fact that the distinction is not clear is not confusing. It is, in its own way, the most clarifying thing this palace has offered. Your eyes are closing. The last thing they see before they close completely is the circular aperture above, the small circle of opal sky, through which the pale droplets emerge in their continuous slow procession, one after another, patient and beautiful, and falling in the way of things that have accepted the support of the world and released their need to hold themselves up. You close your eyes. The warmth of the bench is under you. The sound of the rain is in your chest. The palace is all around you. Chapter 5. The Gallery of Living Glass. The Gallery of Living Glass is on the upper level of the palace. You are there now, in the way of this place, in the seamless way that movement happens here, when you have given yourself over to the palace's rhythms. You did not walk to the gallery, or you did, but the walking happened as background, as the body's own dream, while the foreground of your experience was something else, something softer, something more interior. And now you are here, and the gallery stretches before you. It is a long, graceful crescent, not a straight corridor, but a gentle curve, following the inner surface of one of the palace's towers, bending slowly leftward over its full length, so that the far end is out of sight, lost around the arc of the curve. On one side, the palace's outer wall, the opal stone through which the opal sky is visible as a warm, diffuse glow. On the other side, the wall of living glass. The glass is not in panels. The glass is not in frames. From floor to ceiling, over the entire inner wall of the gallery's crescent, the wall is a single unbroken surface of something that is technically glass, but that does not behave like glass. It is clear, extremely clear, with none of the greenish tint that ordinary glass acquires at its edges, with none of the small distortions or imperfections that reveal the history of ordinary glass's making. It is perfectly clear, and within its perfect clarity, it moves. Not quickly, not dramatically. The movement is the movement of something very large and very slow, a glacier movement, a continental drift. You could watch for minutes and not perceive the motion directly, only infer it from the fact that what you see in the glass now is slightly different from what you saw when you arrived. And what you see in the glass is color. Color without form, without the neat containment of image or picture. Color moving within the glass the way the aurora moves in the sky, following its own logic, shaped by forces that are not visible, spreading and contracting and combining at its boundaries with the freedom of something that has never been told it must stay within any particular space. Turquoise expanding in one direction while amber advances from another, and where they meet they create something that is neither turquoise nor amber, but a new color, a color that exists only here, at this specific meeting, for this specific moment. You approach the wall, you put your hand on the glass is warm. This is the first thing you notice, warmer than the air around it, warmer than the opal walls that line the gallery's outer side, warmer than any glass you have touched before. The warmth is the warmth of something alive, something with an interior temperature, something that generates heat rather than simply responding to external heat sources. And the colors in the glass respond to your touch. Near the point of contact, the colors slow. They gather. They orient towards your palm with the slow, attentive curiosity of something that has noticed something interesting. Not alarmed, not reactive, just curious. The way a very large, very patient animal becomes curious about a small sound, turning its attention toward it without any urgency, taking the time that such a large and ancient thing takes for everything it does. The colors near your hand continue to slow. They form loose clusters near your palm. They deepen slightly. The turquoise becomes more saturated. The amber becomes more specific, more golden. It is as if your warmth is calling something out of the glass, is inviting the glass to show itself more fully in the immediate vicinity of your presence. The glass is alive. You do not know what this means in any technical sense, and you do not need to. You know it the way you know certain other things in this place, not through reasoning, but through the body's own intelligence, which is older and in some ways wiser than reason, which has been gathering information about the world for longer than reason has been operating. The glass is alive, and it knows you are here, and it is glad you are here, in the way that very old things are glad of anything, with a gladness that is so old and so quiet and so settled that it resembles indifference to anything that has not also lived as long and as patiently. You walk along the gallery. You let your hand drag along the glass as you walk, maintaining continuous contact, and the colors follow your hand along the wall, not urgently, not as if chasing it, but with a slow attentiveness that keeps your palm always at the center of the nearest color gathering, as if the glass wants to stay in contact with you, wants to continue this conversation you are having in the language of warmth and light and living color. You pass sections where the glass is working on different things. Here, near the beginning of the crescent, the colors are cooler, blues and greens and violets, moving in large, slow spirals that cover areas of several feet. Here, further along, the colors are warmer, amber, and rose in a deep, specific orange that is almost the color of embers. Here, the spirals have given way to pulses, radial waves of color expanding outward from central points, each wave carrying its color a few feet before it fades, before the next wave begins. Here the glass has become nearly clear, a section of perhaps 20 feet where the living colors are so pale, so close to transparent, that what you see through the glass is depth. Depth that should not exist behind a wall. A sense of space on the other side of the glass that is not the space of the room behind the wall, but a different kind of space, a space that has no physical location, a space that is more like the space inside a closed eye than like any external space, intimate, limitless, belonging to no coordinate system. Looking into this depth, makes your eyes go soft. Your gaze does not focus. It cannot focus. There is only depth, receding and receding. And in the receding, there is nothing but the quality of going deep, of going further than measurement allows, of going to a place where the question of how far is simply no longer a meaningful question. You stand here for a long time. The clear section of glass, with its impossible depth, holds you gently in the way that truly open views hold the gaze, not with the insistence of detail, not with anything that requires interpretation or response, but with the generous release of something very large, something that has room for you and for your attention and for everything you are carrying without requiring any of it to be different from what it is. You are being spacious. This is the practice of this section of the gallery, spaciousness, the practice of allowing your awareness to open the way this glass opens, to become as clear and as deep and as willing to receive anything without reacting to it. The practice of being for a few minutes as patient as the glass itself. You breathe. The gallery is quiet around you. The opal outer wall glows with its gentle warmth. The living glass moves its colors in its slow, inexhaustible contemplation. Somewhere behind the clear section, or within it, or beyond it, through it, you sense the source of the palace's light, the heart of the building, the thing that generates the warmth and the glow that fills every room and garden and corridor. It is close. You are getting close to it, but not yet. For now, the gallery, the glass, the colors, the depth, the warmth of your hand on the living surface. For now, the practice of spaciousness. You are very open. You are very still. The glass is very warm under your hand. Chapter 6. The Floating Gardens. The outer gardens of the palace are arranged like the rings of a planet. You step through an opening in the gallery wall, a gentle absence of stone, a place where the palace has simply left room, and find yourself on a terrace that extends outward from the body of the tower. The terrace is wide, perhaps 30 feet across, its floor the same crystalline opal as the palace's interior spaces, its outer edge unmarked by any railing or barrier. You walk to the outer edge and look over. Below you, the sea of still light, extending in every direction. Above you, the opal sky, radiant and patient. Around you, at various altitudes, connected to the palace and to each other by bridges that are almost too delicate to see at a distance, threads of spun crystal catching the light. The floating gardens. There are 7 of them. The highest garden is level with the gallery where you stand, visible across a brief span of air, a platform perhaps twice the size of a large house, its surface covered with crystalline forms that are tall and slender and translucent, reaching upward with the aspiration of things that have always known the value of height. From here you can see the light moving through these forms, breaking and regathering as it passes through each crystalline column, so that the whole garden glows with a distributed, complex, shifting luminosity. Below that garden, the second, and below that the third, each one lower and larger than the one above, each one with its own character, its own particular arrangement of crystalline life, its own temperature and tone of light. You step onto the nearest bridge. The bridge is extremely thin, thin enough that standing on it requires a small act of trust. But it holds. Of course it holds. The bridge has been holding things for as long as the palace has been standing, and it has never not held. Your feet on the bridge are not the test of the bridge's strength. They are the continuation of a record of complete reliability that stretches back further than you can imagine. From the middle of the bridge, suspended in the air between the palace's tower and the nearest floating garden, you stop and look. This is the view. The palace behind you, its opal walls shifting their colors in the sourceless light. The sea of still light below, perfectly flat, extending to a horizon that is not a horizon, but a gradient. A place where the light of the sea and the light of the sky meet in a transition so gradual it becomes a color. The particular warm, soft, complex color that exists at the boundary of things. The gardens at every level glowing with their stored light, each one a world unto itself, each one connected to the others, and to the palace by these improbable threads of crystal that somehow carry the weight of anything that needs to cross them. The opal sky above. The whole of it. You breathe, and the air of the open space between the palace and the gardens fills you. Air that carries all the light of this place in it, that has been traveling through this impossible landscape for long enough to have absorbed its qualities, its patience and its beauty and its deep, unhurried warmth. The bridge carries you to the nearest garden. This garden is at a middle level, not the highest, not the lowest, but the one that feels central. Its platform is large, 100 feet across, and its surface is covered with a configuration of crystalline forms that in this moment, in this light, resembles a field of grasses after rain. Everything reaching upward with the same general intention, each individual form slightly different in its reaching, in its height and thickness and the particular angle at which it has grown. The crystalline grass catches the light of the opal sky. Each strand of crystalline material captures the light at a slightly different angle and therefore carries a slightly different expression of the opal's color range. One strand glows amber, the next aquamarine, the next the palest rose, and together they create a field of color so varied and so unified that it is like looking at a choir, each voice individual, each voice contributing to something that no individual voice could produce alone. You walk into the field. The crystal grass parts gently around your feet and ankles. It does not break or bend. It moves slightly, yields to your presence with a slow, resilient courtesy, and then returns to its original position after you have passed, quietly, without drama, without any record of your passage, except the warmth that the brief contact has left in each strand. You are leaving warmth in this garden. This is your contribution. You cannot know what the garden does with this warmth, whether it is absorbed into the crystal structure, whether it circulates upward through the strand and is radiated back into the air, whether it is carried by some process you cannot see to some part of the palace where it is needed. But you know it is not wasted. Nothing here is wasted. The warmth you leave in the crystal grass is a gift, and it is received as one. In the center of the garden, the resting place, a depression in the crystalline platform, roughly the size and shape of a sleeping body, as if the garden has been waiting for exactly this, as if the garden has been patient in its waiting for however long it took for you to arrive. You lie down in it. The crystal surface is warm, the warmth of the stored light, the warmth of the garden's own generous existence. It receives your weight with the completeness that good surfaces receive weight. Above you, the crystalline grass, the opal sky beyond. The light filters through the crystal strands and falls on your upturned face in a pattern that shifts with the imperceptible movement of the strands in the warm air, a pattern of soft opal colors, never quite still, never quite the same from one moment to the next, painting your closed eyelids with amber and rose and the blue-green of shallow water and the violet of deep evening. You lie very still. The garden lies very still around you. The opal sky above is very still. The sea of still light below the garden is very still. All of the palace is very still, and in all this stillness, the only thing moving is your breathing, the slow, complete, utterly trustworthy rhythm of your own body, the oldest rhythm you know, the one that was there before you were born and will be there after, the one that has carried you through every day of your life without asking anything from you, that has been the background of everything. Your breathing is the only movement, and even your breathing is very slow, very quiet, very close to stillness. Chapter 7. The Deep Amber Corridors. In the deep corridors of the palace, the walls come close, not threateningly, not oppressively. The way walls come close when you are in a place that feels safe, a narrow hallway you have walked many times, a small reading room with the lamp on, a corridor that is sized for a single human body and therefore feels designed for you specifically. The corridors in the deep interior of the Eternal Opal Palace are narrower than the grand rooms you have moved through. They are less spectacular and more intimate. They have a personality that the great halls, with their infinite ceilings, do not have. They have coziness. The walls here are amber opal. Everywhere else in the palace, the dominant quality of the light is the pale, luminous blue-white of hide opal, cold in the way of high places, beautiful in the way of things that are slightly beyond comfortable reach. But in the deep corridors, the opal has shifted to its warmest expression. The amber opal is the color of honey held up to light, of beeswax candles burning low, of old wood and afternoon sun, of the particular golden quality of light as it moves toward evening. It is a warmth that predates warmth, a warmth that is somehow older and more fundamental than the warmth of fire or sun, as if the amber color carries within it the memory of the original warmth from which all other warmths descend. The corridors are not perfectly straight. They curve slightly, shift slightly, offer small redirections that are not quite turns and not quite straight aheads, but something between, gentle suggestions of direction that keep the eye interested without demanding active navigation. You do not need to think about where you are going in these corridors. Your body knows. Your body has been making its way toward the deepest part of the palace since you arrived, and the deepest part is very close now. The floors in the deep corridors are different from the floors elsewhere. Not moss in any ordinary sense, but a substance with the quality of moss. Soft, low, slightly yielding under the foot, the color of the palest possible green, the green of light through a very thin leaf, of jade held against a window. It muffles your footsteps completely. You walk in absolute silence now. Your presence in the corridor is complete and invisible. You can see yourself, feel yourself, but the corridor gives you no evidence of your weight, no sound, no echo. You exist here without announcement. Along the walls of the deep corridors, at intervals, there are alcoves. The first alcove contains a sphere, perfect, round, the size of something you could hold in two cupped hands, made of opal so deep in its color that it has moved past the usual opal palette into something that is specifically, luxuriously, the color of wine held up to lamplight, a deep red with amber moving through it, with the occasional flash of a deeper, cooler color that is blue or purple at its base. The sphere sits on a small shelf of the amber wall and glows with a very slow internal rotation of color, like a distant planet viewed over long time. Looking at it produces something in your chest. Not emotion exactly, the substrate of emotion. The warm mineral ground from which feeling grows when it is given the right conditions. You look at the sphere and something in you recognizes it. Not as a specific thing you have encountered before, but as a type, a kind, a representative of something that has always been true. That beauty is not optional, that it is not luxury, that it is something the human person requires the way the body requires warmth and food, that encountering it is not an indulgence, but a fulfillment. The second alcove contains a bowl, shallow, wide, the palest opal, nearly colorless, the transparency of glass, but with the depth of the stone, with the understanding that what appears to be mere emptiness is actually mere fullness, that the apparent absence of color is the presence of all colors at their gentlest and most reserved. Looking into the bowl is like looking into the sky on a very clear day, when the blue is so present and so pure that it becomes a substance rather than a quality, something you could scoop up. The bowl is empty, but the emptiness is prepared. It is the emptiness of readiness, the emptiness of a vessel waiting to receive, the emptiness that is not absence, but availability. You could put something into this bowl, any small thing that you are still carrying, any small trouble, any small anxiety, any small thing from the day that is not quite released. You could put it in the bowl, and the bowl would receive it with the same generous clarity with which it holds everything else, and you would be slightly lighter for having put it down. You do not name the thing. You do not think about it. You simply allow whatever is still there, and there is always something, even on the best days, even at the end of the most complete and restful evenings, there is always something small and residual, something that has survived the earlier releases of this journey. You allow it to be acknowledged and offered and received. The bowl receives it. And you continue through the amber corridor, slightly lighter, your feet silent on the crystal moss, the warm amber walls close and warm on both sides. A third alcove. A musical instrument you do not recognize. A series of crystalline rods suspended from an amber frame. A kind of wind chime of impossible delicacy. Rods of varying lengths calibrated, you understand by looking at them, to produce sounds at very specific frequencies if the air around them ever moves enough to set them swinging. They are perfectly still now. The deep corridors have no draft, no movement of air. The instrument has not been played in a long time, or it has not been played yet, or both. In this place, these possibilities feel equivalent. You breathe toward it as you pass. The smallest rod swings, barely, the fraction of a degree. Whether it makes a sound or only makes the suggestion of a sound, you cannot say. Both feel equally true, and equally beautiful. The corridor slopes downward, the slightest gradient, almost imperceptible, but your body knows. The descent feels different from the ascent through the gardens. The ascent was breath in, was expansion, was the opening towards something. This descent is breath out, settling, the long, patient, complete release, the movement towards center, toward the place that has been waiting for you since you arrived at the crystalline shore and saw the palace glowing on the horizon. At the bottom of the descent, the corridor opens, a round room, walls, floor, ceiling, all amber opal, the amber at its warmest and most generous here at the deepest level, as if the stone has been concentrating its warmth for this purpose, has been saving the best of itself for the room where the most important thing will happen. A bed, low, wide, simple, the surface something between silk and skin, the exact temperature of your own body, the resilience and softness of a surface that was made to receive exactly you, that has always been about exactly this. You lie down. The amber light is the last thing your eyes register before they close. And then the amber light through your eyelids. And then the amber light behind your eyes. And then just warmth. Just the palace. Just the deep, quiet, patient heart of the building that has been glowing in its impossible sea since before you arrived and will be glowing long after you leave. That is generous with its warmth and its beauty and its impossible crystalline existence that asks nothing from you except that you accept what it offers, which is everything. Chapter 8. The Pool of Resonance. There is a pool at the heart of the palace, and you are there now. It is a large pool, not an ocean, not a sea, but an interior water of considerable scale, large enough that the far wall of the chamber that holds it is blurred slightly by the quality of the light between here and there. The chamber is circular, its walls rising in a smooth dome above the pool. The dome's interior is lined with opal that is so thin it is nearly transparent, and through it comes the palace's light, the same light that fills every room, but here filtered through the thinnest membrane of stone, arriving in the chamber with a delicacy that is the maximum gentleness that light can achieve, and still be called light rather than darkness. The pool's surface is still. Of course it is still. Everything in this palace is still, in the places where stillness is what is needed. But the pool's stillness is different from the stillness of the other rooms and gardens. It is deeper. It is the stillness of something that has been still for so long it has become a principle rather than a state. The way certain mountains are still. Not still in the way that a person can be still, but still in the way of things that have never been otherwise, that have no experience of motion, and therefore no need to resist it. The pool's surface carries light. The opal light of the chamber moves across the surface in slow waves, not waves of water, because the water does not move, but waves of light moving through the water's depth and reaching the surface as brightness, then pulling back, then reaching the surface again. The rhythm of this movement is slow and steady. It is the rhythm of something very large, something that does not know time in any unit smaller than hours or days. You stand at the edge of the pool. You look into the water. The water is perfectly clear. You can see the bottom, or can you? The bottom seems to be there, a faint darker tone beneath the clear water. a sense of a surface existing below the surface you can see. But the deeper you look, the less certain you are of where the bottom is. The pool has a depth that exceeds the depth of the chamber it is in, or appears to. Looking into the pool is like looking at the opal that makes up the fountain in the hall of infinite reflection. You go deeper than the physical facts of the container should allow. You follow the depth past the point where depth makes sense, until the concept of depth dissolves, and what remains is simply going inward. The going inward feels like rest. You sit at the edge of the pool. Your feet hang slightly over the edge, not in contact with the water, not quite, just above the surface where the light touches the water and breaks into its component warmths. You look at the surface of the pool, and the surface of the pool returns your gaze with the deep, patient non-expression of something that is not performing indifference, but simply being what it is. The room around you is very quiet. Not the quiet of absence, not the quiet of things that have been silenced. The quiet of fullness, the way a concert hall is quiet in the moment before the music begins, when every surface is ready, when every component of the acoustic space is prepared, when the silence is the maximum potential for sound. This chamber is full of quiet. It is at capacity with quiet. The quiet is so present and so complete that it is itself a kind of sound. You breathe. The slow waves of light move across the pool's surface, and your breathing matches them. Not deliberately. You do not decide to breathe at the rhythm of the light, but the light's rhythm and your body's rhythm find each other, recognize each other, and settle into their shared pace without any negotiation required. You and the pool are breathing together. This is the resonance of the pool, the quality that gives the pool its name. Not a sound resonance, not the resonance of a struck bell or a plucked string, but the resonance of living systems finding each other's frequencies, of a body and a place settling into the same rhythm, of the boundary between inside and outside becoming temporarily, gently, meaningfully unclear. You are not the pool is not you. But at this moment, in this chamber, with the light moving across both your skin and the pool's surface in the same slow rhythm, the difference between you and the pool is a line drawn in the sand rather than a wall, present and real, and easily dissolved. You lie back. The floor of the chamber receives you. The amber light of the deeper corridors is here too. The amber quality of the warmth that the opal generates when it is at its most interior and private. You lie on your back, on the warm opal floor with the pool glowing beside you, and the dome above you alive with the reflections of the pool's light. And the chamber is the most interior place you have been, the most inward, the most complete. Above you, the dome, covered in its thin opal, alive with the light of the pool moving across its surface in slow, continuous, beautiful patterns. The patterns have the complexity of clouds and the patience of stars. You could watch them for a long time. You could watch them until the watching became not watching, until the line between perceiving and sleeping became the line in the sand that the pool and you have been negotiating. You watch the patterns. Your eyelids are very heavy. Your breathing has reached the frequency of the pool's light. Your heartbeat has slowed. The chamber is warm and quiet, and the dome above you is alive with beauty. This is the deepest place in the palace. This is the center. From here, the light that fills every other room originates, or passes through, on its way to becoming what it becomes in the gardens and the gallery and the corridors and the towers. You are in the warmest, quietest, most fundamental part of the Eternal Opal Palace. And the Eternal Opal Palace is holding you. It has been holding you all along, since you stepped onto the crystalline shore, since you crossed the sea of still light on your vessel of woven filaments, since you climbed the 30 steps and passed through the enormous white arch, and stood in the hall of infinite reflection and heard the music begin. The palace has been holding you with the warm and patient grip of something very large and very stable, and very much at peace with the way things are. You are being held. You are resting in the thing that holds you, and the light of the pool moves across the dome above you, and your eyes are closed, and your breathing is very slow. Chapter 9. The Final Garden, where the palace breathes. There is a garden at the end of sleep. It is the smallest of the floating gardens, and the most intimate, a platform small enough to be held in the mind as a single complete space, small enough that you can see from any point within it to every other point, that nothing is hidden, that the whole of it is available to you all at once. You arrived here the way you arrive everywhere in this palace, without effort, without transit, simply by being ready to be here. The garden is a circle. Its surface is the pale, translucent crystalline material of all the floating gardens, but here the crystal is at its most refined, smooth to a texture so fine it is almost soft, warm with the upwelling light from the sea below, slightly yielding under the weight of a foot, generous in the way of surfaces that have been prepared for rest. The sky is directly above. No walls, no towers, no other structures between you and the opal sky, just the circle of the garden and the immensity of the sky above it, and the immensity of the sea of still light below. You are between two infinities, held by this small circle of crystal, and the feeling this produces is not exposure, but belonging, the feeling of being exactly the right size for exactly the right place. The crystalline forms of this garden are very low, low and round and smooth, forms that spread outward rather than upward, that hug the surface of the platform with the affectionate groundedness of things that love where they are. They do not reach toward the sky. They do not aspire. They simply are here, on this surface, in this warmth, in this light, needing nothing more than what they already have. They glow very softly, not with the dramatic, color-shifting iridescence of the opal in the palace's walls and towers, with a quieter luminosity, a warm, steady, faintly amber light that is more like the glow of coals than the flash of crystal. The light of something that has been burning for a very long time, and has reached the phase where burning and not burning are nearly the same thing, where the flame is so small and so steady it could go on forever, or stop at any moment, and both would be fine. In the center of the garden, the resting place. It is perfectly shaped for you. You do not question this. In this place, you have stopped questioning the ways in which everything is perfectly shaped for you, because by now you understand, this is what the palace is. This is what the palace does. This is what the palace has been doing since before you arrived, and will continue doing after you leave. It tends toward rightness. It has an intelligence that works toward fitting, toward meeting, toward the satisfaction of needs that the person who has the need may not even have fully articulated. You lie down. Your back meets the warm crystal. Your head rests at exactly the right angle. Your arms fall to your sides with the easy release of arms that have put down everything and found the position that requires nothing. Above you, the opal sky. It is the color it has always been, the color that opal is when it is at its most itself, when it has released the need to be any particular color and has simply become the aggregate of all the colors it contains, their sum and their average and their particular shared quality, which is luminous, patient, incandescent with a light that has no source because it is itself a source. Looking up at it is the last looking. Not in any frightening sense, in the sense of arriving at the place where looking becomes something else, where the difference between looking and resting begins to dissolve, where the quality of the sky above you and the quality of your own closed eyelids becomes similar enough that closing your eyes does not change the experience in any meaningful way. The garden is warm and still and luminous. The palace breathes below and around and above you, its amber corridors, its pool of resonance, its gallery of living glass, its garden of suspended blossoms, its atrium of soft rain, its hall of infinite reflection, all of them breathing, all of them active in their patient, continuous low-fire way, all of them part of the palace's great ongoing existence that has nothing to do with time or urgency or the ordinary world's demands. The palace breathes, and you breathe with it, very slowly, very completely. Each breath is an entire world, a whole journey from empty to full to empty, from the small comfortable nothing of the exhaled moment to the gradual warm filling, to the fullness that holds for just a moment before beginning the generous release. You are very nearly asleep. You are very nearly in that place that exists on the other side of consciousness, not the dark of unconsciousness, not the blank of dreamlessness, but the warm, radiant, completely interior world that the sleeping mind travels to when it has been given perfect conditions and perfect permission and complete safety. The opal sky above you is the permission. The warm crystal beneath you is the safety. The palace's breathing is the condition. And you are the traveler, and you are arriving. Your breath slows. Your body grows warm and heavy and entirely at rest. The garden holds you. The sky holds you. The palace holds you. And everything is as it should be. Chapter 10. The Tower of Ascending Light. There is a tower in the Eternal Opal Palace that goes higher than all the others. From the outside, from the crystalline shore where your journey began, from the vessel of woven light drifting across the sea of still light, this was the tower you noticed first. The central tower. The one that seems to gather all the palace's luminosity into a single upward intention. The one that concentrates the building's identity into its most vertical expression. It is the axis of the palace, the way a spine is the axis of a body. Not the largest part, not the most elaborate, but the part from which everything else is organized, the part without which the rest would not have its form. You are inside the tower. The staircase is extraordinary. It spirals upward around a central well of open air, the kind of staircase that from below looks like a helix of pure intention. The steps are wide and low, so much lower than the stairs of the ordinary world that climbing them feels less like climbing and more like being processed upward by a very gentle machine. a machine whose only function is to lift things carefully to a higher place without asking anything of them in exchange. The walls of the tower staircase are opal at its most intense. Not the pale, luminous opal of the outer walls, not the amber opal of the deep corridors, not even the mirror-polished opal of the hall of infinite reflection. This opal is the deepest expression of the stone's color range, the range where opal verges on the volcanic, where the internal fire of the crystal is close enough to the surface that the stone seems less like a container for light and more like a direct expression of it. Deep red, deep violet, an amber so deep it is nearly brown, but not brown. Something richer than brown, something with more dignity, the color of old knowledge rather than the color of earth. These deep colors swirl in the tower walls with a slow, almost geological patience. You climb. Each step lifts you without asking anything from your muscles or your breath, without the gathering fatigue that stares in the ordinary world produce in a body that is tired, as your body is tonight, as it always is at this hour, after a long day of being used and cared for and asked things of. This climb is the opposite of effort. This climb is relief. From the first tower window, the palace spread below you. You can see the floating gardens at their various levels, the largest at the bottom, the smallest at the top, each one glowing with its particular quality of crystalline luminescence. From above, the bridges between them are the most beautiful thing about them, those threads of spun light connecting platform to platform, catching the light at angles you could not perceive from the level of the gardens themselves, so that now looking down, the whole arrangement glows like a web of silk in morning light, like a star chart made three-dimensional, like a design that has been worked on for a very long time by something with very high standards. You lean on the window sill. The sill is perfectly designed for leaning, low enough that your arms rest comfortably, wide enough to bear your weight, the right temperature against your forearms. You lean, and you look, and you breathe. Below and around you, the palace, the sea of still light extending in every direction, the sky above, all of it. From the second tower window, the sea of still light. From this height, you can see features of the sea that were not visible from the shore or from the surface. Slight variations in the quality of the light, areas where it is marginally warmer, marginally cooler, where the particular color it takes on is slightly different from its surrounding areas. Very large patterns, patterns you could not perceive without this height, patterns that require the distance of a bird or a cloud or a tower window to become visible. The patterns are beautiful. They do not mean anything in the way that the sky does not mean anything, in the way that the colors in the opal walls do not mean anything, in the way that pure beauty means nothing except itself, and is therefore perhaps the most complete kind of meaning. You watch the patterns in the sea of still light for a long time. The sea does not notice you're watching. The sea is doing what the sea does, whatever that is, with complete absorption, with complete indifference to observation. But it is generous with what it does. It does it at the scale that can be seen, in the colors that can be appreciated, with a slowness that gives the watcher time to receive it. From the third tower window, the sky. From this height, the opal sky fills the frame of the window completely. There is nothing else, no horizon, no other structures, no reference to any other scale. just the sky. The opal sky with its sourceless luminosity, its color that is all colors, its patience that has no bottom. You hold this view for a long time. The sky is doing nothing. The sky is being. The sky is existing at the maximum possible scale, without any desire for you to acknowledge its scale, or to respond to it, or to do anything about it. The sky simply is what it is, the way it has always been, and it offers this simply being to you as the gift that it is. The evidence of things that continue without your participation, the proof that the world does not require you to hold it up. You do not have to hold anything up. The sky will continue. The palace will continue. The sea of still light will continue. And you can rest. You can rest completely. You lean away from the window, and you continue up the staircase, not to any destination, not because there is something at the top that you need to see, but because the climbing is itself the rest. The motion of the body in this easy, effortless ascent is its own kind of release. You climb until the climbing becomes the same as being still. You climb until the distinction between motion and stillness becomes as soft and as unclear as the distinction between the sea and the sky at the horizon. And then you stop. There is a landing, a small platform in the tower staircase, just wide enough for a person to stand on comfortably, with a low sill running around its edges, a place to sit and lean and look. You sit. You look down the long spiral of the staircase below you, the steps receding downward in their beautiful helical descent, the opal walls glowing their deep colors, the well of air at the center going all the way down to wherever the stairs begin, which is very far below. The view is not frightening. It is not vertiginous. It is the view of completion, of something that has been traversed, that has been given, that has been moved through, and is now behind you. You were at the bottom of this staircase, and now you are here, partway up, in a landing that was made for this moment. Your body is completely relaxed. Your breathing is slow and low. The palace is below you and around you. The sky is above. Chapter 11. The Hall of Still Water. The last room. You do not know it is the last room when you enter it. You know it the way you know that you are close to sleep. The way the body announces the proximity of rest, not with words or thoughts, but with the quality of its weight, the heaviness of its eyelids, the way the mind's grip on the continuous thread of its own attention gently begins to soften. The Hall of Still Water is on the palace's lowest level, below the amber corridors, below the pool of resonance, below every room you have been in. It is a basement room, an underground room, though underground here does not mean dark or damp or cold. Underground here means at the root, at the foundation, close to whatever the palace grew from and continues to grow from. The hall is long. Its ceiling is low, lower than any ceiling you have been under in the palace, low enough that you could reach up and touch it. The ceiling is not confining at all. It is a different quality of low, the low of a tent, of a cabin, of a space that has been made to the scale of a human body lying down, that holds you close without pressing on you, that contains rather than confines. The walls are the deepest, most settled opal. Not the amber of the corridors, not the mirror polish of the hall of reflection, not the translucent thinness of the atrium. This opal is dense and dark and warm. The kind of dark that has nothing to do with absence of light, that is instead the presence of a light so concentrated and so internal that it no longer bothers to escape the surface of the stone. The light is in the walls, and the effect is a very deep, very warm, very stable glow that asks nothing of your eyes, that requires no adjustment, that simply is. And the floor is water, still water, 3 inches deep, covering the entire surface of the hall from wall to wall, as perfectly still as the sea of still light outside, more still, if more still is possible, still at a temperature that is exactly body temperature, still in a way that you cannot resist. Your feet descend into it, and the warmth rises immediately around your ankles, a warmth that is not the heat of something external, but the warmth of something that is already the same as you, that has no heat to add to yours, but recognizes yours and meets it. You walk through the still water. It parts around your feet and legs with the minimal resistance of something that has been perfectly still and is accepting motion with good grace, with the accommodation of something that understands that everything, even the most absolute stillness, contains within it the memory of motion and the possibility of motion. The water is shallow enough that your gait is normal. You walk in it the way you would walk on a beach where the tide is withdrawing, in the film of water left behind, the worn film that is still the sea, but is also now the shore. The hall extends before you. It is not a long walk. The hall is not enormous, not cathedral vast. It is the size of a very long room in a house, the kind of room that holds many things and many people and many different moments of a life without ever feeling crowded, because the room has the particular quality of good rooms, which is that the right size is not large, but appropriate. At the far end of the hall, an alcove. The alcove is built into the wall at the far end of the hall, built in, or grown in, or simply present there, the way all things in this palace are present, which is, inevitably, as if they could not be otherwise, as if any other arrangement would be a lesser version of the thing. Within the alcove, a resting place, not the same as the resting place in the garden, not the same as the bed in the amber room. Something that combines both without being either. A surface just above the water level, raised slightly from the floor. Warm, the right hardness, the right yielding. Shaped to your form with the precision that the palace applies to everything it shapes for you. You reach the alcove. You sit on the edge of the resting surface and look back down the length of the hall. The still water reflects the opal walls. The reflections are perfect, not the busy, multiply complex reflections of the hall of infinite reflection, but the single, quiet, true reflection of a still surface. The kind of reflection that happens when the water is deep enough and still enough and the light is right. Your own reflection is in the water too, looking up at you from the floor, not distorted, not altered, simply reversed. The mirror you, looking up. You and your reflection look at each other. The reflection does not trouble you. Reflections can trouble people sometimes, the strange intimacy of seeing yourself from outside, the way the mirror version of you is slightly uncanny, slightly other. But the reflection in the still water of this last hall is not uncanny. It is familiar. It is simply you, and you have been you for a long time. And this you, the one looking up from the still water in the amber light at the end of a long journey through a palace of impossible beauty, this you is at rest, and the rest is visible in every line of the reflected face. You lie down on the resting surface. The warmth of the surface meets the warmth of the water, a warmth that surrounds you completely now, that has come from above, the amber glow of the low ceiling, and from below, the warm shallow water, and from the sides, the dense settled walls, and from within you, the warmth your own body has been generating and accumulating throughout this long, beautiful night. You are completely warm. This is the simplest true statement about how you feel, and warmth is the condition for rest. Warmth is the condition for sleep. Warmth is what the body moves toward in the dark hours when it needs to repair itself, when it needs to do the patient, invisible work of healing that it does while the conscious mind is set aside. Your conscious mind is being set aside now, gently, without violence or urgency or the feeling of anything being lost, with the ease of something that has been used well and is now being returned to its place, the way a tool is returned to its place after good work has been done with it, the way a pen is put down after a letter has been written, the way anything that has been used with intention can be set aside without any diminishment of either the tool or the person who used it. Your mind is being set aside. Your body remains. Your breathing remains. Your warmth remains. The still water of the hall remains, and its reflection of you remains, and the amber light remains, and the palace remains. Everything remains. Only the effort, the small, continuous, ordinary effort of being awake, of maintaining the thread of consciousness, only this is set aside, and in its place, the deep, warm, complete, healing dark of sleep. Not dark in any frightening sense, the dark of the earth, which is warm, the dark of the inside of a closed eye, which is where all imagining begins, the dark that is the rest between days, the pause between notes that makes music possible, the space between words that makes language mean what it means. This dark, this warm, amber-infused, palace-holding, water-warmed, opal-glowing dark, you are in it. Epilogue. The palace endures. You sleep now. You sleep in the Eternal Opal Palace, in its hall of still water, in its final garden, in its amber corridors, in all its rooms simultaneously, the way sleep works, the way the sleeping body occupies the real world, while the sleeping mind inhabits its own, and both are true, and both are real, and the boundary between them is as soft and as unimportant as everything else in this place that was once a boundary and has since dissolved. The palace endures around you. Consider what endures: the amber corridors with their crystal moss floors, their alcoves containing the sphere and the bowl and the chime instrument of impossible delicacy, the pool of resonance, breathing its long, slow, body temperature breath, the patterns of its light continuing their wordless, beautiful rotation across the dome above. The gallery of living glass, with its colors moving in their unhurried, geological contemplation, warmer near the section of wall where your palm rested, carrying forward the memory of your warmth in the way that all living things carry forward the memory of warmth received. The atrium of soft rain. Even now, even at this depth of rest, you can feel it, somewhere in the palace's middle distance, the soft sound of the opal droplets descending in their patient, unhurried fall. Each droplet lighter by the moment as the atrium air receives it, each droplet arriving at the floor without splash, without disturbance, absorbed back into the palace's warmth with the same quiet completeness with which everything in this place is completed. The atrium rain has been falling for longer than you have been here, and will be falling after you have gone, and this continuance is not melancholy, but reassuring, the knowledge that some things go on without requiring your presence, that the world is larger than your witness of it, and continues to be beautiful in all the rooms you are not in. The garden of suspended blossoms holds its 10,000 crystalline flowers in their perfect patient suspension. The flowers have not moved. They are in the same positions they were in when you first entered the garden and reached up to touch the lowest petal of the nearest one, when the wave of deep blue moved through its structure in recognition. They are in the same positions because they have always been in those positions, and they will be in those positions when you return. And the positions they hold are the perfect positions, the positions that have resulted from all the forces that act on crystalline flowers in an impossible garden, in an impossible palace, and the result of those forces is beauty. The hall of infinite reflection holds its infinite versions of you, all sleeping now, all at rest, all settled into the image of complete surrender, the most beautiful image a mirror can produce, the most honest, the most uncomplicated, a sleeping face, an open hand, a body that has given its weight entirely to the surface beneath it, and expects nothing in return, and is not disappointed. The floating gardens glow at their various levels around the palace's exterior, each one a world of crystalline luminescence, the bridges between them catching and scattering the opal light, the whole arrangement breathing together with the slow, enormous, synchronized breath of things that are part of the same system, that share a single source of warmth and light, and return it to that source, and receive it again, in a cycle so slow and so complete that the cycle and the stillness are the same thing. The sea of still light extends in every direction from the palace's crystal foundations. It extends to every horizon. It extends beyond every horizon. It has been extending in every direction since long before there was anyone to stand at a shore and perceive it, and it will extend in every direction long after the last perception. It is the most reassuring fact in this entire landscape that beauty of this kind does not require witness to exist. That the sea of still light is beautiful when no one is looking at it. That the palace glows in its impossible colors whether or not there is anyone on the shore to see it glow. You are in it. You are of it. The palace has received you as the sea receives a river, without ceremony, without drama, simply incorporating, simply taking in, simply making you part of what it already is, which is warm and luminous and ancient and patient and completely at rest. The palace has been here for a very long time. Before you came to it, it was here. It was glowing on its impossible horizon. It was tending its floating gardens. It was generating its amber warmth in its deep corridors. It was holding its crystalline blossoms in suspension. It was breathing through its pool. All of this was happening before you arrived at the shore and stepped onto the vessel of woven light. All of it was waiting, not impatiently, not with any urgency, because urgency is not available to something that exists outside the ordinary dimension of time, simply available, prepared, ready to receive whatever came toward it across the still sea. You came toward it, and it received you, and now you are changed, not dramatically, not in any way that the ordinary world would notice or measure, changed in the quiet way that a person is changed by a good night's sleep, by a true rest, by the completion of all the small metabolic and emotional and psychological processes that can only happen when the waking mind has been set aside and the deeper self, the self that does not maintain its own thread, has been given its necessary hours of freedom. You are changed in the way that you are healed. Every night you are healed. Every night your body performs its miracles without your participation or your understanding, rebuilding, restoring, consolidating, clearing. Every night your mind does the same, in the ways that minds do, in the ways that science is still learning to describe, and that experience has always known. Tonight you are also healed. Tonight is also a night of repair. The palace has contributed to this, has provided the conditions for it, the warmth and the beauty and the complete safety that the nervous system requires before it can truly, fully let down its guard, before it can do its deep work. The palace has said, there is nothing to monitor here. There is nothing to respond to, nothing to prepare for, nothing to be ready for. You can let down everything. You can release the vigilance that the waking world asks of you, and that you carry even into the early hours of sleep, even into the first layers of rest, because the vigilance is not always willing to believe the bed. The palace has convinced your vigilance. The opal walls, the amber warmth, the crystalline blossoms, the opal rain, the pool of resonance, the living glass, the tower staircase with its view of everything, the small garden, the still water, all of it has been in its quiet, patient, nonverbal way, making the case for safety, making the case for rest, making the case for the release of every held thing. Your vigilance has been convinced, and so you sleep deeply now, more deeply than you have been sleeping in recent nights, perhaps, more deeply than you might have expected at the start of the evening when you settled in and closed your eyes, and the ordinary world was still close, still audible in the background of the early minutes. All of that has receded. The ordinary world is very far away from here. It exists. It is real. It will return with the morning, and you will be glad of it, glad of its specificities, and its textures, and its people, and its demands, and all the rest of what it is. But it is far away right now. And here is close. Here is the palace, warm and patient. Here is the sea of still light. Here is the opal sky. Here are the floating gardens with their crystalline life, glowing in the dark that is not really dark, but is the deep amber of a warmth that never entirely goes away. Here is your breathing. Your breathing is the evidence of your life, the most continuous thing you do, the thread that runs through every moment of your existence from the first to the last, without ever quite stopping, without ever missing its cue, without ever asking for anything except the air that the world provides and that your body receives and transforms. Here is your breathing. It is slow. It is deep. It is complete. Each breath is a small journey. From the first expansion, the gentle opening of the chest, the rib cage widening, the diaphragm descending, the air traveling inward to the places where air becomes something else, becomes participation, becomes the ongoing commerce between your body and the world. Then the pause, the rest at the top of the breath. Then the release, the beautiful release, the long and thorough and grateful release, the breath going out, carrying with it what it no longer needs, returning to the air of the room what it has gathered and transformed. And then the small rest at the bottom, the comma in the sentence of breathing, the pause that is not empty, but is the waiting for the next word, and then the next breath, arriving as it always has. You will sleep through many breaths tonight, hundreds, thousands, each one a small and perfect act of continuation. Each one the body keeping its promise to itself, the body doing what the body does when it has been given what it needs: rest, warmth, safety, the absence of demand. The palace will keep its promise too. It will glow all night. The amber corridors will warm the deep rooms. The pool will breathe. The gardens will float. The glass will think its slow glass thoughts. The atrium rain will fall and drift and arrive. The sea of still light will remain perfectly, impeccably still. And you will sleep in all of this. You will sleep and be healed and rest and dream. Whatever dreams you dream, this palace makes room for them. The opal walls are wide enough for every dream. The sky is large enough for every dream. The floating gardens have room for dreams of every shape and temperature and color. Dream well, sleep well. The palace is here. The warmth is here. The light that comes from everywhere and goes to everywhere is here. And you are here. And there is nothing, not one single thing that is needed from you right now, or for many hours, or until the morning comes and the ordinary world returns, and you wake with the particular ease of someone who has rested well, who has been somewhere generous and beautiful while they slept, who carries in their body the residue of warmth and the quality of a rest that was complete. That morning will come. It always comes, but it is not now. Now is the palace. Now is the warmth. Now is the slow, deep breath. Now is this.